All right, and welcome back to the forecast card. Unfortunately, a slight losing day. Basically, just a bit of a donation of juice. 4-4 on the day, but two of my slightly higher unit bets end up losing. So down about a third of a unit. Nothing too crazy, but a couple unlucky games. Let's go through them. Yankees at Orioles over. Still can't believe this didn't hit. Yankees 9 left on base. Orioles 6, so 15 left on base total. I think there was 5 or 6 double plays. I really thought there should have been a ton more runs here. Yeah, I think the first inning alone had 5 left on base. It was loaded for Yankees, then they strand it, and then the Orioles had 2 on base, no out, and then they strand it. Um, yeah, not much to say. I think once that inning ended, I kind of felt a little hopeless, but almost ended up coming through at the end. Doesn't come through. Athletics first 5 money line or money line depending on what you took, both cashed. Yeah, Sears played an incredible game. Uh, they kind of got a little sweaty on the first 5, which is what I ended up betting. Um, Athletics kept getting a couple people on, but then Patrick Corbin just somehow kept getting them out. It seems like his biggest talent is he gives up so many hits, but he just seems to be able to get out of the mess every single time. Luckily, top of the 5th, Athletics get 2 runs in to cash, and that's basically all they needed to win 2-1 in the end. Tigers Astros under. It felt fine for a little bit, but despite the fact that the wind was blowing in, and Astro Stadium isn't really necessarily that good of a stadium to get home runs in, it didn't really change anything. Yeah, 3 home runs from the Astros, 2 home runs from the Astros, 3 from Detroit. Total, they only left 7 on base, compared to the 15 in the over I took. So sometimes you just get unlucky. They get base runners, they get home runs right after it. That got kind of cooked kind of early. Riley Green had way too good of a day. Mets Nationals over, super sweat free. I think that game ended like 19-5, so almost 3 times over. Twins money line, pretty sweat free. Again, they kind of dominated early on. Bailey Ober had a really solid day. They ended up winning that game, 11-1. Rockies money line, I felt like it had hope, but the 3 runs that they scored in the first inning were their only runs they scored the entire game. They had 7 left on base, but the Braves had 9. This was just a gamble on the Rockies. They have to win sometimes at home. Felt like a really good spot here to bet them, but yeah, they didn't end up doing enough. And Dodgers first 5 run line, plus -1.5 actually ends up being kind of a solid bet considering the fact that Marlins actually ended up tying the game after a grand slam in the top of the 6th. So first 5 was definitely a solid bet. Dustin May kind of imploded at the end there, but Dodgers ended up winning that game 7-6 in overtime. Overall, 4-4, slightly losing day. It is what it is, but we got a full slate today and a few games that I like a lot more than the games yesterday. So let's get into them. All right, starting up with game number 1, we have the Twins heading on the road to play the Guardians. Now, this is going to be a pretty interesting game. Again, I'm not even sure if it's going to play. It's expected to be a ton of rain, so I don't really even know if it matters to cap it. But again, Chris Paddock has been really bad. Tanner Bybee, he's been fine historically. He's had a really tough start, especially on the road, but he still has been really good at home. So if I was picking a side, it would probably be Guardians first 5 run line. But that being said, the Twins seem to finally be getting their bats going. If you look at the last 14 days, they've been one of the better teams against right-handed pitching. Top 10. And again, Bybee's a good pitcher, but and he has some pretty good numbers historically against this Guardians lineup. But again, weather is going to be blowing out. I just think it's going to be a good environment for runs here. Both these offenses have some pretty elite hitting. Bybee's having a rough start. Obviously, he's been okay at home, but again, he hasn't really played that many elite bats at home. He played the Royals again, who were really bad, are happy in one of the worst offenses in baseball right now. And then they had a pretty good start against the Yankees. But again, the Yankees bats outside of like the first week have been kind of mid. Aaron Judge has been struggling. And even then, he still gave up a home run, 5 hits, 3 walks. He didn't even have that great of a game against the Yankees. So I think we see a lot of runs here. Both bullpens historically were good, but the bullpens did get used a decent amount today. So I'm expecting with the weather Again, I think the Guardians have a chance to completely cover this by themselves. I think Chris Paddock is a really, really bad pitcher right now. He really wasn't that bad last year at home, but he's been really bad on the road historically. And I think this is a spot here where the Guardians are just going to light him up. So I'm going to be on the over 8. I think both of these pitchers, both these teams are good against righties. Bullpens are a bit beat up, and I think the weather is really good for home runs, which both these teams kind of excel at. So, yeah, I'm going to be on the over 8 at a quarter unit on this game. All right, heading on to game number 2, we have the Yankees heading on the road to play the Orioles. This is going to be a really good game. Kyle Gibson coming to make his first debut of the year, but again, he's getting old. I think he's going to kind of look like the same way that Verlander has looked. Just not great. 37 is not ideal, especially for a pitcher coming off of a bit of an injury. I just don't know if he's gonna be really that good. He looked decent, I guess, in the minor leagues, but he didn't really go very far. And I don't really love this Baltimore bullpen this year. He still gave up a decent amount of runs. His Ks were down against some much worse hitters. So historically, he has been much worse at home. On the other side, Carlos Rodon, by no means a super elite pitcher, but he's been really good on the road this year. He's had 3 road starts against good teams too: Detroit, Tampa Bay, Cleveland. And in those games, outside of his game against Detroit where he gave up 5 earned runs, he had 6 shutout innings against Tampa Bay and then 7 shutout innings against Cleveland. So I think he's starting to get back on track, and I do just trust him more than I trust Gibson. Furthermore, again, the Orioles are elite against righties. Like, they're probably the best team statistically against right-handed pitching this year. But against lefties, it's the complete opposite. They're like top 2 in every stat against righties and bottom 2 in every stat against lefties. So up against a lefty here, the Yankees still hitting righties really well. I think they get to Gibson. I think he's going to be starting out a little bit cold. And I think the Yankees can have the lead here coming out of the 5th inning. So I'm going to be on the Yankees' first 5 run line minus 115 at a quarter unit. All right, heading out to game number 3, we have the Cubs heading on the road to play the Pirates. Now, the Pirates' offense has really started to get going a little bit, but again, they're still kind of struggling against lefties. Meanwhile, the Cubs, their offense is just good against everything. In the last 2 weeks against lefties, they're the second best in WRC plus. Over the entire season, they're second best against lefties with 142 WRC plus. On the road against lefties, top 3 over the last 30 days. Number 1 over the last 14 days. Obviously, that's only 14 plate appearances, but they're hitting lefties at a really good rate. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, they've been hitting better, but they're still bottom 10 over the last 14 days and bottom 5 sub 70 WRC plus on the year so far. So Imanaga, again, he's had a couple rough starts, and I think Heaney is kind of due to get beat up. It's hard for me to believe that he's been as good as he has been. Imanaga, again, he's a pitcher that pitches historically way better on the road, which is where we're getting him here. On the other side, Andrew Heaney, he has been pitching better at home, but again, I just don't think he's as good as his stats have kind of been showing. If you look at his xFIP last year, he was a below average pitcher. And again, I don't think he's had to really pitch against that many really good bats this year. He's played Miami, Cincinnati, at Cincinnati's home where they don't bat very well. They play the Nationals and they play the Angels. The only good start he had was against the Yankees. But again, this Yankee team is striking out at a ridiculous rate. They're kind of home run or strikeout kind of team right now, and that's kind of something the Cubs don't necessarily do. They don't have a ton of guys that strike out a lot. So I think Heaney's due to get hit up. He hasn't had a really bad game yet. And Imanaga, I think he's kind of worked himself back in here. Again, I think Cubs just going to be able to hit the lefties at a much higher rate here than Pittsburgh. Again, looks like this game is potentially going to get rained out. Not sure if it's going to come in though. But I'm going to be on the Cubs first half money line here at minus 130 at half a unit. All right, moving on to game number 4, we have the Cardinals heading on the road to play the Reds. Now, this was a pretty shitty game. Cardinals yesterday just couldn't get any runs across. Now I think this is a game where I think the Reds should win. Obviously, seems like the spots where these teams should win hasn't necessarily been the spots that they are winning. But I think the Reds are due to finally start hitting decently at home. If you look at their home versus away splits against right-handed pitching, At home, they're like bottom three, and on the road, they're top three. I just don't think that makes too much sense. I think it's kind of an anomaly. Um, I think they're due to start hitting a little bit better at home, like we kind of saw. Um, and up against Mikolas, pitcher they've hit really well against historically. Um, Over 77 at bats, they've hit him for 23 hits, 11 of those being doubles or greater, 3 home runs, only 13 strikeouts, an OPS of almost .900. So they've had a lot of success against Mikolas. I think he's kind of due to get hit where he has pitched much worse on the road. And Brady Singer is 4-0 on the year. Um, I think he's going to have another really good start. He's been really good at home, kind of matching up the sub 4 ERA at home. He's been quite elite, solid Ks, not a ton of walks, not a lot of home runs. I just think I trust him way more than Miles Mikolas. Again, Miles has had a decent start this year. Don't get me wrong, but he's still struggling on the road um, to start off this year, and he's still giving up a ton of hits. He's not giving up a lot of earned runs in his last 2 starts, but still, against the Mets, he gave up 7 base runners, 5 base runners against Philly, um, 12 against Boston, 4 against the Angels, 8 against Atlanta. I don't think he's really that good. Kind of similar to Patrick Corbin to me, but I think this is a spot here where, again, I think the Reds kind of match out. I think the Cardinals are kind of struggling a little bit against righties, despite having a kind of a hot start to start off the year. Um, I don't really love Reds bullpen. I think it's one of the worst in baseball right now. It's like the number 2 in xFIP. And the Cardinals bullpen ERA is not great, but the xFIPs, keep them kind of above average, almost like around the 4 mark. So I'm going to be on the Reds' first 5 run line here at -110. But again, just going to take this at a quarter unit. Not my favorite game on the board. All right, that brings us to game number 5. We have the Phillies at home versus the Nationals. Again, this is going to be a really good game. I think the Phillies, again, they've kind of had a bit of a rough stretch against right-handed pitching, but versus lefties at home especially, they've still been really good. 132 plate appearances, which is not a significant sample, but 138 WRC plus on the season. They're still top 10, 105 WRC plus against lefties in general. And over the last 14 days, similar top 10, 120 WRC plus. So I think they've been smacking lefties at a pretty solid rate. And again, Mackenzie Gore, I think, is kind of due to get beat up. I think he's having a really good year, but he's still pretty young, and he's still kind of struggling on the road. 4.76 ERA on the road, 2 at home. Obviously, we're going to get him at home here against a lineup that, has been doing pretty good against lefties. Again, Zach Wheeler, my opinion, top 10 pitcher in baseball right now. I think he's in his prime. He's been looking absolutely insane. He does give up, a home run or 2 every now and then. But again, that's typically where people get him. His strikeouts have been incredible. His walks have been still up there, but down from previous seasons. And he still has a sub ERA, 2 ERA at home so far this year, kind of similar to what he had last year, over 100 innings pitched. So I think we're getting the way better pitcher here to start. Both these bullpens are pretty mid. But again, I just don't know if Gore is going to be up to the task here on the road. I think Wheeler is just the better pitcher. And we're getting him at a pretty good price. I think Phillies will easily score 4 to 5 runs this game. And I think the Nationals end up being held down to 2 or 3, especially in this kind of awkward spot where they're going to be traveling. So, I'll be on the Phillies run line here for half a unit at +115. All right, moving on to game number 6. We have the Royals heading on the road to play the Rays. Now, this is a weird line to me. Again, I have this modeled at 7.8 runs, and there's 9s out there right now. I think at under 9, this just seems like a spot I'm going to have to take a chance on the under here. Lorenzen, not an incredible pitcher. Tad Bradley's having a bit rough of a year, but still, I just don't know if the Royals' offense is back yet. They've been finally getting hits, but they're still a below average offense even over the last 2 weeks, despite how well they've been hitting. Tampa Bay has been really regressing offensively. Again, bottom 10 as well, with both of them having a sub 100 WRC plus. So both below average offenses. Again, Rays Stadium not necessarily that known for a lot of runs. Both offenses kind of in slumps. I think both these pitchers are due to have some solid starts. Taj is really a good pitcher. He's just kind of young. He's been getting beat up, but he's also played a couple really tough offenses. Yankees, Arizona, Braves, Rangers. Like he's played tough teams. And his best start again was at Colorado. So I think that kind of shows that if he's playing a bit of a mediocre offense, I think he's going to find some success and kind of regress back to his home, sub 4 ERA. And Michael Lorenzen hasn't been great this year, but again, he hasn't really given up too many runs. The strikeouts are down, but I think he'll have a decent start here against a Rays lineup that's kind of again slumping a little bit. And these slumps with the Rays do typically last a week or two, so I don't know if they're going to be out of it yet. This is still a Lorenzen pitcher that threw a no-hitter not too long ago. So again, both these bullpens are not very bad at all. Above average bullpens. Yeah, I think under 9 is a good spot here, considering the fact that I think the weather and the stadium is going to be favorable for the lower total. So I'm going to be on the under 9 here for a quarter unit at -115. All right, that brings us to our next game. We have the Red Sox heading on the road to play the Jays. Now, I don't particularly love the spot. Again, I am a Jays fan. I don't typically love to bet against my team, but at home versus lefties on the year, Toronto's number 1. Obviously, they've only had 80 plate appearances, so a very small sample. But on the season, they're still a top 3 team against lefties. Seems like that's where they're finding some success. Obviously, Garrett Crochet is an elite lefty. Probably a top 3 left-handed pitcher in baseball. But he still, last time these two teams played, he really struggled with his command. He's giving up a ton of walks. And again, he gave up only 1 earned run against Toronto, but that was on 5 hits and 4 walks. Obviously, he had 4 runs given up. Some of those were due to error, so not actually earned, but still, he gave up 9 base runners in that game. Only pitched, didn't even make it to 6 innings in that game. And now he's going to be playing at home in Toronto. I think he'll give up, 2-3 runs. I think Red Sox bullpen give up a run or 2, and I think Bowden Francis, despite being good, the Red Sox have been hitting righties pretty good this year, especially over the last 14 days. They've been top 5 offense against righties. So I think we're gonna find some success. It's gonna be a domed game for Toronto. So if it is domed again, not gonna have to deal with too much wind. I think the stadium is gonna be pretty warm here. Hitters are gonna find some success. I think this total at 7.5 is a little bit too low, given the variability of these two offenses. This game could end 1-0 or it could end 14-3. You have no idea. So I'm going to be on the over 7.5. I think that's the right side here for a quarter unit. All right, that brings us to our next game. We have the Diamondbacks versus the Mets. Now, again, these two teams have been, going crazy offensively. But I think this is kind of where it stops. Obviously, the Mets just had a crazy 19-run inning. Not 19-run inning, but a 19-run game. And the Diamondbacks, had a day off. I think maybe they'll start out a little bit cold. I don't know. I really like both of these pitchers. David Patterson's been having an incredible year. Eduardo Rodriguez, not a phenomenal year, but he's still doing fine. David Patterson's still giving up a lot of hits, but he's figuring out ways to get out of the pickles he's been in. He's given up 7, 7, and 8 over his last 3 starts. But his ERA is still solid. His WHIP could definitely be improved upon. But again, he's kind of similar to Patrick Corbin. Yeah, you give up hits, but it really depends. He seems to be able to figure out how to get ground balls into double plays or pop-ups when he gets into trouble. So kind of expecting him to continue to do that. Eduardo Rodriguez, again, he's been giving up a good chunk of hits too. But again, he's also keeping his ERA relatively low. Gave up 10 hits against Miami, 6 hits against Tampa Bay, only 1 earned run in that game against Miami where he gave up 10 hits. You could argue maybe he's getting lucky, but his xFIP is really low. So he's honestly getting a bit unlucky with the contact that he's been giving up. Again, I think he's going to find success here. Both these offenses are good. Of course, they're good. But again, I think the Mets are, just slightly above average against lefties over the last 14 days. Pretty good on the season. But again, I think Eduardo Rodriguez is the better pitcher. In Arizona, their stats kind of always look good against anyone because they have such hard contact with the ball that their WRC plus is always solid. But I think in this game, in the Mets stadium, I don't know. I have this modeled at 8 and 8.5. Um, Again, I'm also getting under 9 in this game. I think both bullpens are really really good. So I'm gonna be on the under 9 here at -120, um, just for a quarter unit. All right, that brings us to our next game. We have the Brewers heading on the road to play the White Sox. This is probably my favorite game on the board. Again, White Sox, one of the worst bullpens in baseball. They're gonna have a full bullpen game. And if you look at this Milwaukee team on the road versus righties, um, they've been really really good. Again, basically a top five offense, 110 WRC plus, over 422 plate appearances on the road against righties. Top 10 in general against right-handed pitchers. Um, over the last 14 days, still top 10, 113 WRC plus. Uh, and 117 like, on the road. They've been hitting right-handed pitchers, and now they're going to be starting with Bryce Wilson, who truly is atrocious in my opinion. So far this year, he's only pitched, two innings, so you can't really say much into it. But in those 2 innings, he's put up an xFIP of 762. Last year, really wasn't great either, an xFIP of 4.44. Again, this is just gonna be a bullpen game, so we're gonna have to deal with a bunch of arms. Freddie Peralta has not been incredible, but his ERA has been elite. Um, he's still giving up quite a bit of contact, but he's been decent enough. Um, but I think we're just getting him in a good spot here against a White Sox team that just can't hit righties well at all, especially at home. But I think the Brewers will find their runs, and I think Freddie Peralta has a really good game here against a White Sox lineup that's really struggling to get anything going offensively. Um, I'm going to be on the Brewers run line -125 for 1 unit. All right, heading on to the next game, we have the Athletics heading on the road to play the Rangers. Now, I think the Rangers here are going to get their comeuppance. I think they just had a pretty big stinker of a game, completely winnable, only down basically 1 or 2 runs the entire game. And they just couldn't get across the finish line. I think they're going to be a bit frustrated, and now they're going to be up against basically a no-name pitcher in Jacob Lopez. Pretty young pitcher, hasn't really pitched much in the majors. And when he has, again, this is gonna basically probably likely going to be a bullpen game here for the Athletics. His ERA is perfect, but again, his WHIP is really bad. I think it's due to hit up a bit. He hasn't looked phenomenal in the minor leagues. And of course, Jacob deGrom, since coming back from Tommy John's, he's only going to slightly improve. Again, he's still 36, and he's given up a decent amount of hits in his few games. But again, I think he's going to be on a mission. He's been really, really good at home this year. Sub 3 ERA, basically 2.5. His K rate's been up. His walk rate's been down at home. Home runs down at home. And his biggest struggle has been against lefties. And again, the Athletics do have some decent lefties, but they still are a more heavily weighted right-handed hitting team, which I think leads better to DeGrom. So I think the Rangers here, basically a fully righty lineup, especially with Seager still missing. I think Jacob Lopez is going to struggle. Historically he's been decent against righties if you look at his stats, but again, the Rangers do hit lefties at a decent rate. I think they're going to find some success here after a pathetic game today. So I'll be on the Rangers run line here at -105, just a quarter unit. I still don't necessarily love the Rangers bats, especially without Seager. And again, Athletics are a team that have a lot of young talent that's been, performing decently well this year. So, not incredibly confident in this bet, but I do think DeGrom is the better pitcher. And again, the Athletics bullpen is not necessarily that deep. They basically only have one incredible arm, and outside of that, they're kind of mid. So, I'll be on the Rangers run line. Moving on to the next game, we have the Tigers heading on the road to play the Astros. Now, this is a weird series. This was obviously the game where I had the under. They're just very efficient with their runners in scoring position. Part of me wants to take it under again, but I don't really like to get burned on the same bet twice. I'm probably just going to be on the Astros first 5 money line here. Ryan Gusto has kind of been a surprise. He's been really good. He's only 26, but he's looked amazing in all of his starts. Obviously played a bunch in the bullpen, but since kind of moving into a starting role, he had a bit of a rough game against the Padres. But outside of that game, he's been really good. K rates have been up. WHIP's been solid. Yeah, again, Detroit. I think they got a little bit lucky with the contact that they got last game. Wind's going to be blowing in again. I don't think the Tigers will be able to get their offense going against Gusto, who doesn't really give up a ton of hard contact. And you probably will see quite a few solid fly balls, but I think they're going to stop around 300 mark. Gusto is the solid pitcher. Again, I don't think the Tigers are able to chain hits together as well as the Astros can at home. I think they have too many lefty bats, and that's kind of where the Astros have a bit of an advantage here at home. So I don't particularly love this bet. Just going to be a quarter unit run for me. But yeah, this year it seems like Reese Olson's struggling a bit more with the righties. And that's of course most of the Astros lineup. So I'll be on the Astros first five here at -105, but just for a quarter unit. Moving on to our next game, we have the Braves versus the Rockies. Now again, the over in these games have not been hitting at a really high rate yet this year. But I think this is going to be a time here where I'm gonna go for the over. Finally, we're gonna have both obviously the altitude that comes with playing in Rocky Stadium and Coors Field, but now we're also gonna have the wind blowing out, which kind of is amplified significantly by the fact that the altitude's higher. I think we're gonna see a lot more runs here. Rockies, obviously, they had that 3-run home run in the first inning, and then they did absolutely nothing for eight and a quarter innings after that. I think their offense is going to find more success. I think Josh Beck, who's been really good, is going to get some home runs. And if you look at the xFIP of both of these pitchers last year, they really were pretty shitty. If you look at Marquez, ranked 837th, an xFIP of 5.52, really, really bad. And Shaver, not much better, ranked 685th with a 4.72. Both of these pitchers aren't phenomenal. I don't know if AJ has ever pitched in Coors Field before, but again, he's only 22. He's already had 3 starts where he's given up 6 hits, 7 hits, 6 hits. Has never went more than 5 innings. Has a problem with walking people, gives up home runs. I think this is a really tough spot for him to be pitching, especially on the road where historically he's been much, much worse. German Marquez, I think he's probably one of the worst pitchers on the Rockies bullpen, just in general. If you look at his last 3 games, 5 earned runs, 7 earned runs, 6 earned runs. Rarely goes more than 4 innings. Had a couple of decent starts, but I think he's terrible. I think he's going to get completely lit up here by this Braves offense, who, again, they're not phenomenal this year, but they can still give up some. They still get hard contact, and in this environment, I think both these pitchers combined for 0-6 this year. I think it's going to be a shit off. I think we're going to see a ton of runs. I think these balls are going to find some air, and we're going to see a lot of home runs. So I'm going to be on the over 10.5 here for half a unit at -120. I just think these pitchers suck, and a lot of the better bullpen arms were used in their games today. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a shittier bullpen day. And I think we're going to be looking at like a potential 9-7 kind of game. All right, moving on to our next game. We have the Los Angeles Angels heading on the road to play the Mariners. That's going to be a good game. I think I've said that about every single game today. But again, Bryce Miller, I don't really know much about him. I kind of wanted to expect from him this year, but I do know that Jack Kokowicz is really bad on the road, and been really bad on the road this year. He's been really bad on the road in previous years, and he just hasn't been good. And obviously, this is going to be a pitcher's ballpark. Maybe he's going to find more success. But I think Bryce Miller is way more comfortable pitching in this environment. He's been not phenomenal. He had a pretty tough start. His walk rate's been way up. But if you can figure out his walk rate, which I think is something he's going to be working on, I think he's going to have a solid inning. This guy can pitch easily into 100 pitches the way that he does pitch. And again, last year he was sub-2 ERA at home. I think he's going to slowly get back to that as he gets more comfortable. Yeah, I genuinely believe he's gonna find some success here. Historically, he's been way better against righties, which is basically most of the entire Angels lineup. So, one thing that is actually unique about the Seattle team is they can hit the hell out of the ball. They've kind of been unlucky because they play in their stadium where it is very much a pitcher's ballpark. So even when you're getting good contact, you're not necessarily getting as many runs as you would be at all. But again, on the year at home versus righties, they're top 5 in WRC plus. Versus righties in general, they're the number one team in WRC plus with 800 plate appearances. Um, they can hit the ball extremely well, while the Angels still, bottom 5, bottom 10 offense against righties. I think we're getting the better pitcher, the better bullpen, and the better bats here. Obviously, it's kind of risky taking a run line in a game that's projected to be extremely low scoring, but I do think we see like a 4-1, 4-2 type of game here where the Mariners can cover this run line. So I'm going to be on the Mariners for half a unit at plus 130. All right, moving on to the second last game. We have the Giants heading on the road to play the Padres. Now, both these offenses, again, Padres still missing, in my opinion, their best player. I'll probably start betting the Padres again when Jackson Merrill's back, but for now, their offense has been really in the gutter, like really, really, really bad. Against right-handed pitching on the year, they've fallen from like a top 5 offense all the way to the 17th just because of how bad they've been lately. First righties over the last 14 days, they're the second worst offense versus righties, just behind the Angels. Of the last 30 days, not necessarily as bad, but still, just barely outside of the bottom 10. They've been really sucking against right-handed pitching, especially on the road. I think they're going to struggle, or especially at home. Sorry, I think they're going to struggle to get runs going. On the other side, the Giants, despite being a really good offense to start off the year, probably one of the hottest teams. They've definitely slowed down, just barely above average over the last 30 days against right-handed pitching. Bottom 5 over the last 14 days. Obviously, on the season, they're still not even a top 10 offense against righties this year. Not even a top 15. They've fallen all the way outside to the 18th best against righties. So they've really slowed down their offense. They were getting a little bit kind of carried away, in my opinion. But again, we're getting Logan Webb here and Nick Pivetta, 2 aces on the mound against 2 offenses that can't really hit righties too well. And again, weather, ballpark pals expecting minus 11% runs. This is a pitcher ballpark. Wind's going to be blowing in. The total set at 6.5. We can get first 5 under 3.5 at minus 110. I'll be all over that bet. I'm expecting probably maybe one of these pitchers are going to get a home run, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 1-0 game going into the 6th inning. So I'll be on half a unit bet here on the first 5 under 3.5 at minus 110. Moving on to our final game. Probably not my favorite on the board. We have the Marlins heading on the road to play the Dodgers. Now, we did see today with some probably much better pitchers than what we're seeing today. A 7-run, 13-run game or whatever it was. Sawyer, he's really not good. I don't personally love him. I don't think he has a lot of good stuff. Obviously, he hasn't pitched this year, but last year, an xFIP of 6.22. Obviously, the Dodgers saw something in him, but I don't really trust him. And Sandy Alcantara, since being a father, has just looked like shit. Like, it seems like that's keeping him up at night. He went from like 2 elite starts to kind of mid, 4 earned runs, 6 earned runs, 3 earned runs, 8 walks over that stretch. Only 1 strikeout in 2 of those games. Like, really not crazy stuff. And again, he's really, really bad on the road this year. That's kind of where he's had most of his bad starts. And now he's, maybe being away from his kid is going to, kind of get in his head a little bit. But again, both these offenses versus righties are pretty good. Miami's been top 10 all year. Dodgers top 5. Weather's not going to be necessarily great for runs, but I still think these offenses can piece together doubles and singles, not necessarily too reliant on the home run ball. At least they haven't been this year. So I'll be on the over 8.5 here at minus 105, just a quarter unit. I don't really know what to expect from Matt Sawyer. I think he maybe have gotten better. Who knows? And Sandy Alcantara, still an elite pitcher at the end of the day. But again, Sandy Alcantara has struggled historically against his Dodgers lineup, giving up almost a .900 OPS over 131 at-bats. So I do think both these teams will find some success offensively. So I'll be on the over 8.5 on this game. All right, and that is everything for today. Just to recap, I'm going to be on the Twins versus Guardians over 8 at quarter unit. Yankees versus Orioles. Yankees first 5 run line at minus 115 for a quarter unit. Cubs first 5 money line for half a unit at minus 130. Reds first 5 run line, quarter unit minus 110. Phillies run line full game at plus 115 for half a unit. Under 9 in the Rays Royals game at minus 115. for a quarter unit. Red Sox at Jays, over 7.5, -110 quarter unit. Diamondbacks at Yankees, or at Mets, sorry, under 9, -120 for quarter unit. Brewers run line for a full unit at -125. Rangers run line for a quarter unit at -105. Astros first 5 money line for a quarter unit at -105. Over 10.5. Sorry, this is a lot. Over 10.5 for half a unit at -120. Mariners run line for half a unit at +130. First 5 under 3.5 for half a unit at -110 in the Padres at Giants game. And finally, I will be on the over 8.5 in the Miami Marlins at LA Dodgers at -105 for a quarter unit. So yeah, that's everything for my bets for baseball today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Cheers.